Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Apio Query, and we are on behalf of OBREAL Global, organizing this event for the Women in Science. I will just take a short minute to have a short introduction of what OBREAL Global is, and then I'll give the floor to my colleague Imena to continue. So OBREAL Global basically is an organization based in Barcelona, but with roots all over the different continents, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America. And the vision of OBREAL Global majorly is to facilitate interregional dialogue. So this particular webinar is framed under that topic of interregional dialogue, trying to make sure that there is based cooperation between the South-South countries and of course also with the northern countries based on reciprocity and knowledge transfer. We are committed to ensure that there is continuous dialogue between the different regions to ensure that whatever issues that are taking place in one area and the other, we are able to discuss and maybe share ideas, and also cross-linking of the different activities and events that are taking place across the different regions. We are very much interested in the South-South part of it, because as we've come to understand, it's that the southern countries share a lot in common, and they share similarities in terms of issues that they're having, and also in terms of the solutions that we are finding out that are being implemented in the different regions. So it's quite critical to ensure that we have the interregional dialogue going on so that people can have solutions that already exist somewhere and can also be implemented, just a little bit tweaking here and there. So our value is majorly innovation, inclusiveness, diversity, and sustainability, and specifically also multilingualism. We understand that the different regions speak in different languages, communicate, tackle the issues, come up with solutions in different languages, and it's quite critical to have that. That means, therefore, in this particular webinar, we are having interpretation in English and Spanish. So if you comfortable paying attention or following the webinar in English, please ensure that you choose English. If you're comfortable following it out in Spanish, please make sure that you choose Spanish. And this is a series of webinars. We've had several webinars, and specifically in this particular line of Women and Science, we had the first webinar in April, and this is follow-up of this. So we encourage you to continuously be with us, and of course raise issues. If you have any questions, there is a Q&A button. Click on it, raise questions to the panelists, and of course the panelists will continuously be checking on that. We'll also be able to alert them in case of it there's any question that needs their input. So thank you so much, and without further ado, I'll give the floor to Imena. Imena, continue.
Thank you very much, Apio. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone following us from many different parts of the world. It's a real pleasure. I'm Jimena Estrella. I'm collaborating with OBREAL in innovation issues, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you, participants from all over the world, and especially with my colleagues from Argentina, from Germany, and from South Africa, that will be telling us, motivating us today on the issue of women and science. As Apio mentioned, this is part of an interregional series that is devoted to understand the challenges and opportunities from a multi-regional perspective on women, innovation, and science, a very important issue for all of our regions, an issue in which all three of you have a lot of experience, and we hope in this dialogue, it's not a conference, but a dialogue, we can learn from you, and I'm sure you will be inspiring our audience from the different countries and also activities, because this interregional series has also a characteristic of trying to make people from different areas participate, not only from the academia, but also people with experience from the private sector and also from the governmental sector. So we understand it's the contribution, especially in innovation, the contribution of all these three actors, of all these three agents that can generate impact on society. So in each of our webinars, and this is the case today, we try to call for experiences from these different areas. In this case, women and science, a very big issue that around the world accounts for only 30% of researchers are women. So these are UNESCO figures, the last figures available, only 30%. And if we analyze this specifically for the science, for the engineer science, this is especially low, not up to 5 or 7%, depending on the region. So the situation is quite difficult and challenging. If we analyze at the management level, the decision-taking level, the participation of women is even lower than the number of researchers. And this is something happening in Argentina, in Germany, in South Africa, also in Asia. So it's really a worldwide problem. The idea today is to understand and to talk about the different ways things can change, and also to understand the ways we can help each other to change this and to promote the participation of women, understanding that we can definitely contribute to a new approach on science. So let me introduce now my colleagues and friends that are today here. Odilia Abreu, thank you very much for being here. Odilia is coordinator of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for the Migration Policy Group. During the last 20 years, she has been working in the NGOs and foundations sector and attained experience both in institutional communication and in the development of implementation of projects. Her expertise areas are migration and female empowerment, in which she has had the opportunity to lead projects such as Euthenia, the Mediterranean Executive Women Community. So thank you so much, Odilia, for being here today. Fernanda Silva, bachelor and PhD from the University from San Luis, National University of San Luis, Argentina, bachelor and PhD in chemistry. Nowadays, associate professor at Cuyo National University and superior research at CONICET, the National Agency for Research in Argentina. She has more than 90 high-impact publications, an H-index of 35, and she has recently begun the entrepreneurship career, being nowadays the scientific advisor of a startup called Biotectics, receiving funds from one of the big players of one of the big venture capitals called IndieBio. So thank you, Fernanda, for being today with us. And Erna Blankert, lecturer and researcher in viticulture with 15 years experience in undergraduate teaching and supervision of postgraduate students. She was the first diversity graduate in the PhD viticulture program at Stellenbosch, South Africa, and a Fulbright alumni. She had also received recognition for viticulture and wine creation in the South African wine industry for 2023, recently. Congratulations for that. And she's founding director of All Things Grapes, a vineyard and wine consulting company based in Stellenbosch. So thank you also, Erna, for being today with us. And with this introduction, I would like to pose the first question that looks to understand your current context and your current activity. So we want to know, what are you doing? And what are some of the most exciting opportunities or projects that are you currently working? And which are some of the key skills that are essential for success in these projects you are working on? Odilia, if you want to start.
Well, thank you very much, Jimena and OBREAL Global, for this opportunity. It's indeed an honor to share the panel with Fernanda and Erna, like real outstanding scientists. And I feel like I'm like a self-made science, and my role is to promote, mainly to promote science among women. I'm currently working at the British Naumann Foundation. This is a German foundation. We have presence in more than 60 countries around the world. And I manage the Mediterranean Dialogue project. So I have the opportunity to build bridges among the EU, North Africa, Middle East, and Western Africa as well. So we have a global campaign that is called Female Forward, that is mainly focused on the debate on equal opportunities and the promotion of women in the STEM sector, science, technology, and society. And we also, in line with this program, we have launched the senior community that gathers executive women around the Mediterranean from the STEM sector. So we have launched this network 2 years ago, and we connect top female leaders from tech and business world from both shores of the Mediterranean.
Thank you very much, Odilia, for telling us about all the work you do. Erna, it's your turn.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to OBREAL and also to for this opportunity to be part of the panel and sharing it with such brilliant scientists. Makes my work even less harder because, esteemed panel. And thank you also, Jimena, for chairing the session. I'm a viticulture academic, and viticulture is the science of grapevine and how to make grapes better to make fantastic wine. I'm a teacher, so I teach undergraduate students on ampelography, the different types of grape varieties, grafting. I also do lots of research, and my research is specifically focusing on climate change and how the environmental factors impact the grape metabolites and how that translates back into the wine. And more recently, we're all confronted globally with climate change and diminishing yields, and sustainability is quite a very big aspect which is important for producers, and also to preserve the environment. And for that reason, I also ventured into looking at more sustainable alternatives than conventional farming, for the use of biostimulants as a green alternative, as we globally see consumers not wanting to drink wine that's been conventionally farmed and farmed with lots of pesticides, herbicides, etc. So more organic and biodynamic. And I have trilateral projects which I conceptualized with countries like Belgium and China. And more recently also, I was awarded another grant with Switzerland, where we will be unpacking the use of different biostimulants in field conditions and in a greenhouse, and also trying to see how the plant memory works under those conditions. Because although we are far apart from each other, we share the same challenges. To answer the question on key skills that we should have in order to effective communication is critical when you're a female scientist, because sometimes you're regarded as soft-spoken because you are a female, and also just your values and morals and doing ethical research and lots of empathy. I think women are overall better scientists because we have a little bit more empathy, more understanding. I'm not saying that men doesn't have any empathy, but we are also a little bit more meticulous, but more about that later on. Thank you, Mina.
Thank you, Erna. Thank you. I'm already identifying many points of interest among all you three. Per, if you want to continue.
Yeah. Well, hi everybody. It's really a pleasure and an honor of being part of this extremely important webinar. As Jimena already said, my background is in chemistry, particularly green chemistry and green analytical chemistry. I do teaching a lot. I think that my main goal is to advise young people. I've advised more than a dozen PhD students, and I'm very proud of that. I do research in analytical chemistry, in green analytical chemistry, and also lately I've been in the industrial area in entrepreneurship as being advisor of a startup, a scientific startup. My research area lately is deep eutectic solvents, natural deep eutectic solvents that are natural solvents that show immense potential of this technology, not only in science, but also a great impact on food, agriculture, energy, personal care, and in the chemical sector. Concerning the skills that anyone should have for science and for research, I think that the first one is motivation, is passion. You have to be in love of the subject of your investigation. Whenever I meet a student, I ask, okay, what do you love? What would you like to do? I never say, this is your subject. Always you have to choose your subject of research. Another thing that is extremely important is commitment. Commitment is very important, and and perseverance also. And of course, being curious. Curiosity is extremely important. You have to know what is happening, how is happening, why is happening the things, to know the truth of everything. Another thing that for me is extremely important in research is to be able to collaborate. Yes, no one can work alone. You have to be part of a group. You have to work in a group and listen to everyone in the group. And in this way, you will develop. And last but not least, ethics. You have to have extremely intellectual honesty and respect for everyone, for everybody. So I think it's enough. I could talk, as you know, a lot, but to begin with, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of you. And now I would like to go back some years, not a lot of years, to the beginning of your careers, and to understand what inspired you to pursue a career in science. There are many young women listening to us and will listen to us afterwards through YouTube. And I would like to, so that you can tell them what inspired you and what challenges did you face along the way, which is the advice you can give. And specifically, if you can describe the importance of the role of mentorship in science. If you had in your career some mentor, how did she or he help you? I would like to listen about that. Erna, if you want to start, please.
Yes, curiosity got me to study viticulture. So I grew up in a town called Paul, about 1 hour, 45 minutes from Cape Town. And I saw these wine labels and red cherry, guava, lychee, and I thought to myself, but when I taste these grapes, it doesn't taste like this. I knew I had sciences and mathematics in school, and I wanted to study medicine. And I thought, what are the chances? Let me do something that's not the normal thing, studying law or sciences or just a normal BSc. So I enrolled at Stellenbosch, and I was still fascinated. And every time something new pops up, this plant is just so fascinating, because wherever you plant it, I always say a grapevine is like a weed. It can grow anywhere, but it gives you different expressions of the wine. And science is such an interesting thing, because you can, even because you have the viticulture part and then also the winemaking. So this was a course that you can do two things simultaneously. So you can either specialize as a viticulturist, so growing the grapes. And I know sometimes agriculture isn't seen as something sexy, because there's this perception that you will stand in the sun all day. But I can tell you, I've got the advantage, depending on the time of year, to change my office 3-4 times in a day. And I am super excited to get up in the morning, because I know there's something new that I'm going to discover. I'm passionate about what to wake up at 4 in the morning. Not every morning I need to wake up that early, but also to do the research and go with my students to the field to check the plant metabolism, to check the water potentials at 2 a.m. and also to start seeing how to actually embroil that knowledge and see how the students also develop as scientists. I've experienced a lot of challenges as a female in this field because it's a male-dominated world. Sometimes when I arrive at some of the producers, they think that I'm a laborer because I'm a female coming and also a person of color in the South African context, or a BIPOC individual. So that is quite a challenge. You are sometimes, even with my students, you get undermined because you're a female. And they come from a very rich heritage of farming, and you read the room and you can see that the students is challenging you and wanting, but what can you possibly teach me about viticulture? But normally at the end of the 4-year course, they are my best friends, and they contact me afterwards for advice and as to what to do. In terms of my science, and it's really, really important and exciting work that I'm busy with, because it also gives me the opportunity to do pioneering work. Like one of the projects that I'm working on is where we use one specific seaweed extract that only grows in the waters here in the Western Cape, and there's no published results in literature that anyone has done that at all. So I just thought, why can't we do this in South Africa? And that's the flexibility and the innovation that you also have as a scientist to come up with great ideas. And also when you travel, because I also have the opportunity to travel and see what other people are doing and bringing that new innovation and new ideas back to South Africa. That is really important. I am a firm believer that mentorship is critical in anyone's life. I've been privileged to have quite a number of mentors, males and females, in my career, but more recently, I've surrounded myself with a very core, strong female group, and I can call them anytime, night or day, with any question. More recently, I also started to study towards the International Master of Wine, which is the most difficult wine course in the world. And even with that, I see lots of making new friends, bringing new knowledge back to South Africa. There are a lot of vehicles around the world to support young girls that's contemplating or thinking of doing sciences. One is the New York Academy of Sciences, and they generally look for mentors or mentees who wanting to enter the program. So I was a mentor in that capacity or in that program as well. And then the US government, they also offer programs for entrepreneurs where females can also travel to the US and go to Silicon Valley in order to get some entrepreneurial skills and also link that up with STEM, with a STEM background. But it's really, really important to have a mentor. I think mentorship has changed my life completely. And if it wasn't for my mentors, I think I might not have been where I'm at the moment in my career.
Thank you, Erna, for this. Odilia, can you comment on this question?
Yeah, well, when I started my university degree 26 years ago, a career in the science and technology sector was not really part of a girl's wish list, at least not in Portugal, where I was raised. Back then, it was a very male-dominant sector, and the lack of female role models in the sector was a reality. Nevertheless, I was always a strong believer of the power of science and technologies to balance the world by improving life quality in society, especially to women. And this is the main reason why I always try to put an emphasis on technology and science in my work when we talk, when we are designing projects or researches, including women. And I have been lucky along the way because I met so many outstanding women that, like Erna said, that were really mentors to me in my personal case. I must say that without them, I couldn't have this mindset change, because one of my mentors told me, you don't need to have studied tech to be a techie. But it's really connected with these skills that we were mentioning. You need to be resilient, you know, because sometimes it's not an easy way, especially if when you think it's too late. I haven't studied tech or science back then, so, and there are other outstanding women that are amazing. So what I'm doing here. But if you have a passion, I invite you to follow that passion. One of my mentors invited me to take some training courses, and especially more connected in technology sector on blockchain. So we are working on forest change. That is a application to follow up for forest industry concerning the timber traceability. And it's like it's a new whole world out there to me. So I've been able also to conduct researches also connected to climate change. And it's really, what I could tell to young women, young girls that are out there thinking, oh, maybe this is not for me. Yes, this is for you. And maybe it's a commonplace to say but follow your dreams. Maybe at this point in your life, you're not really willing to follow, you don't have the opportunity as well to study science or technology, but you never know. Yes, you can have the opportunity but I also believe that if you find the people, these mentors that are willing to give you their time and their knowledge and to inspire you along the way. That's why I also I'm a mentor myself in this Virginia community, because I really believe in the power of mentorship. And I have met outstanding women that at some point of their life, they decide to change their career path. And now they are mastering several sectors, not in science, in technology, big data, cloud computing, just to mention a few. So I think it's really important, and I didn't mention at the beginning these also the skills, not only resilience, but I think that's also what we women need, are like ownership. We need to, because it's also, we need to stand for what we believe, what we do, and to showcase our work. I think it's very important.
Thank you, Odilia, for this. Fer, if you want to share your view on this question.
Yes, well, when I look back, although I'm over 50, I realize that I am still 5. I am still at the age of Y. This is what, as a conclusion. Why did I choose this career? Well, because it has allowed me to grow on personal merits. That's I think the main thing. I've been allowed to push the boundaries of knowledge, to try to produce an impact for a better world, definitely. And yes, I realized that it's like I extract the energy from young people when I work. That's very important. I love being surrounded by young people and listen to them and try to always be young in that, at least in my mind. Yes, it's impossible in my body, but at least in my mind. And mentorship. Well, mentorship is crucial. It's crucial. I've been very, very lucky. My first mentor was man, but I never listened and no by him. Any crazy idea I had, he always said, okay, go ahead and try it. And also I grew as a scientist in an environment of freedom, complete freedom. That's very important. I've also been so lucky to have women as mentors who have been very, very hard pushing. So I've looked at them all the time and try to be at least 100% as they are. Well, I think that's enough to begin with also.
Thank you. Very interesting listening to the role of mentorship on all three of you differently, because also our regions are different in the way we mentor, we receive mentorship. I think that's an issue to go in depth in some other moment. So let's go for the third question. That I would like to know, what are some of the unique challenges that women face in science in your country or in your region, such as biases, stereotypes, lack of representation, if you want to address some specific issue? And if you think international cooperation can help in this, in looking for or in changing these biases and stereotypes, please feel free to give us a panorama of what you see in your country or region. Fer, if you want to start.
Okay, yes. Well, I think that we women have to demonstrate everything twice or three times. This is one of the main challenges. You have to demonstrate everything deeper, harder, and several times compared to men. In my case, I think this is worldwide. It's not only from my country. The most difficult issue that I had to face is to balance work and life. Being a mother and a scientist and a researcher and a teacher, this has been the most difficult task that I have faced. To balance personal life and work, it's been very difficult for me. Concerning my country or the region, I think that there are no very important differences. I've had the opportunity to visit other universities from other countries in Latin America and also in Europe or the USA, and I would say that the situation is similar. Again, we have to push hard, to talk loud, to raise hands, to be listened. But although it is more difficult, I think we women have some skills that we have to be proud of them. For instance, our empathy is, I don't say if I have empatia. How do I say empathy? It's okay. Okay, this is one women's skill that is great for us. So I think that I've had opportunities similar to men. Really, I don't have to complain about that. Concerning my personal merits, I've been lucky. So maybe not everybody has been like me, but in my area, I've been able to compete with men in my career.
Thank you for that. Odilia, if you want to comment on this question of the specific characteristics of your country or region. I know you have this 60-country program.
Yeah.
If you want also to comment, feel free.
Yeah, well, I think that the gender gap, as you mentioned, Jimena, at the beginning, it's still a struggle, a daily struggle. You can tell also in Germany, there's only, for instance, 70% of women in science and tech sector. So you can tell, and we are talking in a first world country, so if the situation in Germany is like that, you can imagine all the challenges we also have in our projects. We work with 16 different countries. So it's great because you get to know different realities, people, even these people that are women that are science, and sometimes they don't even realize that they are science, like what they have found, what they do on their daily lives. what they improve their creativity. That is really, really amazing. So I think that there is a lot of struggles, and I would like to mention also artificial intelligence, because we are always talking about this right now. ChatGPT is changing not only the tech sector, but our lives. And I think it's important that we are aware that there is an additional challenges connected to AI, because only 22% of AI professionals are women. And it's a particularly important benchmark because new technology is reliant on developing an algorithm that can embed gender discrimination. So I think this is also in their core functionality. This is also an additional challenge that we should keep in mind when we talk about women in science and achieving, especially in gender equality. So I must say that why the role of women to promote science, what women can't give to science. Well, we as women, and as Fernanda mentioned, we have to prove ourselves 3 or more times. So we have like a PhD or a master's degree or whatever in facing challenges. I think that we are the best ones to wake up a new day, and we have a ChatGPT that it's a revolutionary tool. So I think that when it comes to overcome challenge, women are the best actor to have on your team, for sure. So also about the Euphonia community, I just want to point it out that this community that we have created from all over the Mediterranean, we have people from Ivory Coast, Senegal, Morocco, Germany, Belgium, Spain. We focus this on top leaders in the science, innovation, and technology sector, because one of the common trends that we identify in these countries is the lack of role models. It's still a reality. We don't have female role models, so we need these executive women to come and to sit down with young girls. We have a mentoring program, and we bring also young girls. Some of them are already entrepreneurs, especially Western and North Africa. They are really fierce in the entrepreneur sector. They always have, I want to do this, I have this idea. And they really need this mentorship program. So I think it's also one of the things that women can put their knowledge for other women, and girls, especially girls.
Great, thank you, Odilia, for this. Erna, if you want to comment on this question.
Yes, what I want to add to what Fernanda and Odilia mentioned. Empathy, and then also we've got very strong intuition, female intuition, which adds to also that tenacious character, because we have to defend and we have to do things 10 times harder in order to get somewhere. I want to share some in my South African experience. I agree with what my fellow panelists said. The work-life balance is quite a challenge. Being a mother, a scientist, a wife, and then also trying to be a student in my case, and just balancing that. And I'm very, very lucky that I've got a very supportive partner and husband who also jumps in and help and do the things that I'm supposed to, or traditionally thought of that those are the female's role. So that really helps. So girls or women, choose wisely, get a hands-on husband and someone that can assist you with these roles. It's the 21st century, so you don't need to only change the diapers. Choose wisely. And also just some perspective and some experiences that I had because of the location of South Africa. and my field of specialization being the only university that offers this program, I felt very isolated being here down the tip of the African continent. And then I realized that I need to do something just to get stimulated. I need to start traveling, or I need to start reaching out. So my strategy was, when I went to conferences, was just to go and introduce myself to professors who I've only read about quite a lot. And I would ask, I'll be in this country, or can I possibly come and visit? Can I see I've read this work. But I went in with the strategy to, when I attended these conferences, and that led to, when the Fulbright call came, I was able to contact Professor Marcus Keller in the USA, saying, "Oh, Prof, can I please come and do a Fulbright in your lab? You're a very distinguished professor in viticulture, world-renowned." And that opened a lot of scientific doors for me. So it's really, really important to have those interactions, and that helped me also to establish a very big network internationally. And I worked on that for 2-3 years, and then I started focusing on obtaining grant funding, because then I knew my network was established, and then I could, of course, have more international cooperation. And more recently, Stellenbosch University was also part of Vita Global, which was also under the auspices of OBREAL. And that within that network, we were also able to, of course, been able to travel to other wine producing countries, have very good exchanges, and we still have that network with fantastic colleagues in Argentina and all over the world, and trying to also bring the wine world very, very closer, because we're experiencing the same challenges, we're just in different parts of the world. And as Apiwe also mentioned right in the beginning, we are scattered all over the world, especially in the Southern Hemisphere. There are such a lot of resemblances. Like in Argentina, you have asado, we've got braai here in South Africa, but those type of things, and we love our wine, love our sunshine. So there are a lot of, but we also experience climate change. And we can just bring the wine world much closer and share that knowledge through international cooperation. And to promote this diversity and inclusion in South Africa, to bring it also closer to my specific field. As I mentioned, it's a male-dominated field. I mentioned some of the challenges that I experience. Sometimes people think that I'm coming to deliver a package when I'm actually coming to do a presentation at a specific talk. And also race is quite a big thing in South Africa still, sadly, even though it's long past 1994. So those are some of the challenges that you constantly face, biases being undermined, but you shouldn't, you should move the own boundaries, don't follow the pack, run your own race, and somehow, somewhere along, someone will realize, ooh, there's actually a method to the madness. A few years ago, everyone thought I'm crazy using biostimulants on grapevines, because it was only used on table grapes, and now everyone's like, So don't follow the pack. Just, if that's the nice thing about science, innovation, bring new ideas and break the glass ceilings. You don't need to stay in a box. Just bring new knowledge and work hard, be tenacious and never give up.
Thank you so much for this. And as you mentioned, some ideas or strategies for the beginning of your career, just saying, hi, I'm Jimena, nice to know you, what can we do together? Maybe Odilia and Fer has also some advice on small tips one should follow, where to read about things or how to contact people, or if you want to share some tip, considering young scientists can be listening to us or and listen in the future. Do you have some idea on that? Well, some other things women can do to start in the career once they have the decision? As Erna said, just raise your hand, talk.
Yes, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. It's very important. And talk loud. Raise your hands. Send emails. Maybe it's something in science. It's not not only being women, but also being Latin American. Sometimes, for instance, when you have to publish something, you have to demonstrate everything twice or three times, not only because you are a woman, but also because you are from Latin America. And sometimes the reviewers do not, they have like a kind of factor, oh, do they have that equipment? Are they good enough? So my advice is never accept a no, always believe in yourself and make you being listened. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, Fer.
Yeah, I think that I agree also with Erna and Fernanda. Also now you have technology, so LinkedIn, connect with people through LinkedIn, introduce yourself, show your interest, go to conference if they're in your city, raise your hand, make yourself visible. I don't know, propose yourself to do an internship, and start building this network. Networking, I think, is fundamental in this world, especially if you're a woman. I always say that your network is your network. So if you start with that, you're on the in a good way. But you need to raise your hand, as Erna and Fernanda said.
Jimena, one of the other things that you could also do 99% of the time, if you send an email, scientists love people sending them emails. And 99% of the time, a professor will say, yes, you can come and visit. Yes, you please come, because they are happy someone is reading their work somewhere in the world, and they're always open for that. And there might be the 1% that doesn't respond because they're just too busy. But yeah, just send an email. And normally 99% of the time, I had success when somebody responded and said, yes, you're more than welcome. Please come and visit.
Thank you. Thank you. So great to hear those little tips, but very, very useful, that can change that beginning and stimulate and motivate the career. So we go for our last question. It's open for the audience to ask something. So please use the questions and answers, or also the chat as you like. So our last question is for you to think about the future, and is dealing on the future of science and the role of women on that, considering the big challenges we have worldwide. You mentioned already climate change, but also we have poverty, hunger, migration, water management. I mean, we have really, really huge challenges worldwide that affect us, all the regions, all the countries. So if you can comment on how do you see from your perspective this future, and which is the specific or general contribution we women can do in this. So Odilia, if you want to start with.
Well, I would like to start answering the last question with the personal experience. A couple of weeks ago, my son had to prepare a presentation on innovations and its inventors. So he did it about the wheelchair. And the parents, we were invited to the school to see the whole class presentation, the high school. So there were 23 students presenting 23 inventions and its inventors. Not one single female scientist was included in this list. So we talk about future, but I think that it's very important that we look to the past as well, and to highlight references that are already there. Like also Erna mentioned, this bias. We are at the point that we think that we have changed perception when it comes to the role of women in science sector, but we still have a long way in order to change behavior. So this is also a big challenge when we talk about the future. I'm talking like in a very specific action line. I think that community is fundamental to generate change. It's an impact. So it's true that we can talk. I also do a lot of research on climate change. I think this is a big topic that should be already, because it's already happening. We're always talking about climate change in the future. No, it's already here, and it's affecting. We recently launched a study also in Europe, North Africa and Western Africa, and we can see how this is already affecting rural communities, women communities. So this is now. The future is now. For me, when people ask me about the future, I say the future is happening, because as I mentioned before, you wake up for a day and the whole world is different. So we need to be ready for that. And I think that we as women in science and tech, we should be contributing to that debate as well, to put it in the center of the debate. Sometimes we have so many, like, look at us, we are 3 different women from 3 different geographical zones, and we have mentioned the same challenges. It doesn't matter wherever you are, we share something, we have a common ground. We have mentioned life-work balance. I think we have, of course, we can talk about global challenges. We know what is going on, also with artificial intelligence, all the challenges that are being put on the table. But we as women, as science, that it's the theme of the panel, we also share this challenge for the present and the future.
Thank you, Odilia, for this comment. Erna, if you want to give your vision on this, on the future of science, the role of women.
I firmly believe that we should be our own cheerleaders. I think I've encountered females and colleagues who are not always very supportive, setting people up for failure. So one of the things that I do on a daily basis is to help other females to reach their potential, and just look out for my other sister in science, and just helping them also to reach their career goals. Females, or us as women, we are multitaskers, we are innovators, we are meticulous and precise, and those are characteristics of a fantastic a scientist. And despite us having to prove things 100 times over and over, we know that we are capable, and like Fernanda and Odilia said, we need to believe in ourselves as well in order to reach it. So I agree with Odilia, the future starts now, and if we can roll a rock out of another sister in science road, I think, you know, we're gonna reach that goal faster of getting more females in science and interested in STEM. One thing that I do, because I'm also mentoring some students here in South Africa, is to share my experiences with them, because I don't want them to waste the same amount of time on issues or challenges that I face. And through sharing my experiences with them, hopefully they won't make the same mistakes that I have made. And here again, the question of interregional collaboration and sharing knowledge, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can't be fantastic and great at everything in life. So Fernanda is a chemist. I don't particularly like chemistry, but I know she can also benefit, and that's how you also build your network. So yeah, we should be our own cheerleaders and helping our fellow sisters for this big task at hand and take over the world of science as females.
Thank you so much, Erna. Fer, if you want to comment on this.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I completely agree with Erna and Odilia, what you have said. Just to add or to conclude, the future and the present in science is definitely that we have to face a problem in an interdisciplinary environment. the way of making science, or chemists do something or physics do something or no. It has finished, and we have to face that any issue in an interdisciplinary environment. Another thing is that sustainability is a must. It's a human right. It's the new human right, and we have to do everything in this environment, sustainability. And for we women, what I would say is that we do not have to be afraid to fight and to assume leadership. In an academic environment or in industry, we have to fight for leadership, definitely. And again, I completely agree with Erna and Odilia. So my words are your words.
Thank you, Fernanda. Thank you all three for all these motivating ideas, inspiring good examples, sharing the challenges, your path. You are three successful scientific women, and well, you've shared your experience, and I'm really grateful for that. We have some questions from the audience, and then I would like to comment on some of the tons of notes I've taken. We are producing with OBREAL a paper on this after the interregional series on women and innovation is finishing. We will work on a public policy recommendations, taking your experience, the questions from the audience, so that we can all have some material to base our decisions and hopefully for our institutions to make some changes. So we have one question from a vice rector. Sorry, it's moving. A vice rector, a research vice rector from a private university in Peru. She says the role of women leadership, both in private and public institutions, is quite reduced, basically because of well, problems, comments, male comments, and she asked, how do you think we can improve this, changing this male attitude towards women work? If you have some ideas on that, how we can change that? What you said, Odilia, from perception to behavior. So which are the things we can do to push this change? If someone wants to answer, has some idea on this?
I will maybe start, and then my fellow panelists can add to it. I think it should be an institutional approach where there is a force or a overall goal to improve diversity. And diversity doesn't only include race and gender, but also inclusivity, also people with disabilities. And I think from my understanding and from what I see what's happening in my own institution, those things normally have to happen at a higher level with a real intent for change. And Stellenbosch University is currently busy with some changes also from a managerial perspective on the rectorate level, having 2 female vice rectors for internationalization and also for research and innovation. So that should come from a really higher level, and that normally sort of enforces people to engage and bring that change about. Within the South African broader, more on a governmental level, that is also a scoring system. When females apply for a job or when there's an award position, there are also a scoring system to see whether it's a female, what skills does this person have. So yeah, those things normally come from government as well in order to increase numbers, but that is not always the ideal situation from my perspective. Yes, so those are some things that we have in South Africa and that could possibly help, but I understand that there are some structural barriers in certain countries, of course, which might not work it's not a fit for all. It might not work in Peru.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erna. Per, if you want to comment on this.
Yes, I would add that in industry it's even more difficult to be a woman and be at positions like CEOs or something like that. And something that we have to fight for is for salaries, equal salaries for men or women, not depending of if you are a man or a woman, but of your skills and what do you provide to the company. This is something that I'm not so aware of the situation because I'm not in the industrial environment, but this is something I think we should do something for equal salaries depending on if you are a man or a woman. I have the impression that is not fair, that aspect.
Thank you, Fer, for putting salaries on the table because it's definitely an issue. Odelia, please.
Yeah, you're right, Jimena. Salary gap is a reality. It doesn't matter if you're talking about EU, Latin America, Africa. I think that this is a real global issue for men and women. So I very much agree with Erna. If we look at the reality, the last Global Gender Gap report said that we still need 132 years to reduce gender gap. So we can talk about this issue for weeks, months, years, but if their policy making is fundamental here. You have to establish law. I'm not very much in favor of quotas, but because I think that you should achieve the position based on what you in your values. But sometimes women, we are invisible. So we need, especially in the science and technology sector. Also because sometimes we don't believe in ourselves. This is another debate, but I see that because I invite women to be in panel discussion, and sometimes they say, no, I'm not going. And men, even if they don't have the same expertise, or they just say, or even if they have less expertise, they say yes regularly. So we also need to work in this change of mindset for ourselves. But recently, the EU has also approved a quota law that is set up a percentage of 40% of women in leadership positions. Because when it comes to leadership positions, women are not represented. So some people are against it. Yes, of course, we can talk about it. But at this exact point, we need a regulation that establishes that you need to have women on science and technology and leadership positions. Otherwise, in a couple of years, we are not going to be talking about 132 years. We will be talking about 200 years to reduce this gender gap.
Thank you for this. You've assessed also one of the questions we have about structural gender inequality and some policies that we could implement or push for to change this. And we have one last question dealing with communication, science communication, which is also one of the big tasks you as scientists need to do, communicating science, generating this scientific culture for our society so that science is valued, science is understood, and so that science is chosen by girls and by kids. So can you comment on some specific challenges you encounter as women in communicating science? You, Odelia, mentioned something about participating in panels, but maybe you have some other ideas on science communication?
Since you address it directly, well, science communication, I think it's very important. Fernanda mentioned the leadership. It's a very relevant skill because you can tell, like I mentioned, when it comes to communicate the results, sometimes we as women, we have to stand for what we do and what we know and be there. You have to be on the public debate. Otherwise, if your face is not there, even if your name is there, someone is going to take the credit for you. That is real life. You know, nobody's going to be waiting for you to say, oh yeah, no. People take their credits, especially in this specific sector. I think we have experienced that several times. So communicating science, I think it's very, very, very important. Organizing debates, public, but also, like it was mentioned, it's how to reach out girls, young girls. Sometimes we as techie persons, we live in our world or science, and we forgot that it's important also to simplify our language, because if we talk in this terminology, we must even scare young girls that are willing to be part or to pursue a career in the STEM sector. So I think mentoring programs are the best tools to communicate science. Honestly, we've been doing workshops with young girls in these 16 different countries, and it has been an amazing experience. You know, it's like I mentioned, they're already science, but they don't know it. So sometimes they need someone to tell them, yes, you are a science.
Thank you. Erna?
Part of our research and one of our funders, they do require that we do the transfer of the knowledge in the science communication. So one of the things we do is to invite school groups as well. And we've got a Women's Day coming up in August, where I'm planning to also invite girls from high schools who's contemplating or thinking about science or viticulture or knowledge in the field, because I have an added complexity because it's an alcoholic beverage. We cannot show them or let them taste it. So we need to be more creative, more on the sensory side. But that, of course, also opens more doors in terms of aroma chemistry, where you can teach them how perfume is made, etc., and the perfume that you actually perceive in a wine. So those are some of the challenges that I have, but it's definitely funders do require that you do the science communication, and that you can also do through writing of just popular articles as well, just to, in layman's terms, to tell people what you are doing in your research.
Yes, I completely agree. I think that women scientists, we have to talk about science in all the educational levels, including kindergarten, in conversations, in that anyone can ask and answer. This is definitely something that we should do now, in all the academic structure, in the whole levels. And I feel that sometimes this is not even done in universities. Sometimes teaching and research are like two different words, even in the universities. This is something we should definitely face and change.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Fernanda, Odilia, Erna. It's been a real pleasure. I think you've answered the questions the audience have asked, and they are all very happy and saying thank you for sharing, for doing what you've just said. Say yes, because you were, all of you, willing to participate from the first moment. So I'm really thankful for that. It's the things you said and we need to do. As I told you, I've taken a lot of notes that then will become some kind of paper of public policy or recommendations, but I would like just to point out some of the things you've said about women in science, starting with the distinctive characteristics you mentioned we have, like empathy, effective communication, ethics, these multitasker abilities that are really good for this complex world with interdisciplinary problems. So it's just we fit our abilities with the needs the world is putting on us. Then you all mentioned the importance of mentorship, and there I would like to note how you all emphasize our work, the work we need to do with young girls, on motivating, on making this world open for them so that they can understand, and this can be an option from the very beginning. You said, Fernanda, from kindergarten. Absolutely agree. And I also would like to add that we also need to communicate this with kids, because this cultural thing we all need to change. As Odilia says, from perception to behavior, it also, everything starts with the little kids and girls, boys and girls. So we need to change this from the very beginning so that when they grow up, all these problems we face as grown-ups have changed. Let's hope, Odilia, this 132 years you mentioned, we can push really hard to reduce that number. Something you also mentioned, Erna, you mentioned it and you show it, the passion. And I think that's something we also have a role for this, to communicate, to show, to be an example on this. And another last issue that you mentioned, according to the questions, is these two levels we have to work with to change this: the personal level, that the things we can do at our lab or our office, but also the things we need to push at the institutional level. The impact of those two things are different, but they are complementary. So it's not enough. None of them is enough by itself. So to combine this, and international cooperation can give us this scenario to push the institutional arena while we continue doing this personal job, which is so big. And I am really thankful for you that I know you do it in your institution. So I believe this is the way, and we need, I insist, to combine it with the institutional level. So I'm really glad we also have in the audience many people that are nowadays in that positions. So invite them to do these structural changes that at least at the beginning are needed for this situation, this gender gap to change, so that we can all have the opportunities and contribute to the world problems from our different capacities. So I think we can be closing this. If you have some other comment, Erna, Odilia, or Fer, you're welcome. Otherwise, okay, yes, please.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for sharing this space with you, great women, and thank you. A big thank you.
Yeah, it was really inspirational. I never get tired of meeting new, amazing women. So it's the best way to end the week.
I want to start the week all over now because I'm so inspired. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I'm sure. Thank you. And see you on September the 1st, the next webinar, specifically dealing with management, science management, and women challenges. So this institutional level we were talking about, we will deal it specifically with ideas, good examples, and good practices on how to improve at the university, government, and private level this women's role. So thank you so much, and have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah.